I was at the dinner table with my husband and children, and my daughter turns to me and she says, "Mama, can you tell me about some African queens?" And so, you know, of course my brain is like, okay, so there's Nefertiti and Tai and Queen Veronica of the Congo, you know, and I'm trying to, you know, quickly go down this list in my mind. And specifically, I'm trying to give them region and story and give it so it can come to life for her. You know, I'm getting so deep now, we've like Googled, we're trying to find pictures, you know, like Queen Amina, of course, you know, I can't leave out Nana Asmo. My husband's like, you know it's past her bedtime and you're still talking about African queens. And what I realized in that moment is that she was looking for something. She was looking for a definition for herself. And so, fast forward 2 days later, I bring her to Junior Jummah. They have this program in the masjid that in the evening the kids pray to do their own little Jummah program. So it's time to pray, and I'm like, come on baby, let's go pray, let's, you know, get our stuff together. So she's trying to find her scarf, and she turns around as we're on the stairs, like 2 feet from the musalla. She turns around and she says, "Mama, how come the women have to wear a scarf?" And so immediately, I went back to that moment, and I said, because every queen has her crown. And the crown of the Muslim woman is her scarf. Now let's pray.
Let me begin by saying the following. When I first got here yesterday, Brother Khalil met me, and he said something to me. He said to me, "Your homeboys from the Ville send you their salams." And I know a lot of you don't know what that means, so I'll just explain that very, very quickly. The Ville is short for Somerville. That was a gang in Philadelphia. And that's the gang that I used to be from. I know that many of you are shocked to hear that, Dr. Jackson, that yes, that's where I came from. And when he said that to me, it reminded me of something that I think is relevant to our future as a Muslim community in America. Way back, before I was a Muslim, there was a guy who had joined the Nation of Islam. And this guy was from the opposite gang. He's from a gang called Haines Street. And this was serious business. People died all the time. And this guy came down to our turf, standing on the corner, giving us some dawah to the nation. And we're looking at this guy, and we can really smoke this fool. And you know, when it's, I don't have to explain this, some of the brothers know what I'm talking about, but you know, when it's about to go down like that, you know, you can almost smell it, you can feel it. Does that make, right? And I still remember his words to this day. And he knew that it was about to go down. And you know what he said? Islam has no use for cowards. Islam has no use for cowards. And I think that that's an important lesson, because for us to move forward, we're going to need not only knowledge, but we're going to need courage. Because the challenges that confront us will be very daunting. And the way that we've been socialized, in a sense, puts us in a position where certain buttons can be pushed so that we rationalize our way out of action as opposed to forging ahead. And I think it's really important for us to understand in this regard that we have, it's really important for us to understand that we have to be courageous enough to look the issues in the eye, to look them in the face, and not address the issues that we simply want to address, or even see the issues as we want to see them, but see the issues as they really are and address them as such.
You know, when I'm thinking about us as a community relating to each other, the story in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ of Bilal and Abu Dhar comes directly to mind. We know that they got into a contentious exchange. And at some point in the exchange, Abu Dhar said to Bilal, Ya Ibn al-Sawda, son of a black woman. And when you look at a book like Al-Isaba fi Tamyiz al-Sahaba, that gives you physical descriptions of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, you see that Abu Dhar himself was described as being swarthy. So he was dark complexioned himself. Saying son of a black woman to Bilal was a racial slur. This was an insult. This was ta'an to his ethnicity. This was the equivalent of saying nigger. And Bilal immediately went and told the Prophet ﷺ, which is instructive. At no point did he say, you know what? He slapped Abu Dhar. He choked Abu Dhar. Sometimes you talk to brothers, I went to the masjid, I said salam alaikum. Nobody returned my salam, I slapped everybody in there. These are people with character. He told the Prophet ﷺ. What's interesting though, is even though the Prophet ﷺ must have understood, because we can look at his ahadith, that this is going to be a continuing process of eradicating this vicious legacy of ethnocentrism from the Arab, he did not say to Bilal, be patient. You know, they're changing. These things take time. He said, no, tell Abu Dhar I need to speak to him right now. They summoned Abu Dhar. He said, Ya Aba Dhar, innaka rajulun fika shay'un min al-jahiliyyah. Truly you are a man that has some of that ignorance left in you. And Abu Dhar was so disheartened by what the Prophet ﷺ said to him. He went to Bilal and he sought his forgiveness. He said, I had no right to say to you what I said to you, and I beg of your forgiveness. And Bilal again exemplifying character. Don't worry about it, I forgive you. This is instructive for us. I forgive you. But there has to be an acknowledgement of wrongdoing. And pain has to be allowed to speak. You hurt my feelings, man. And then Abu Dhar, he was not convinced that Bilal had really forgiven him. He said, you know what? I can tell that you still have something. Bilal assured him, no, there's nothing. He said, no, I'm going to get on the ground. I'm going to place my face on the ground, and I'm not going to get up until you take your foot and place it upon my head. And Bilal didn't say to him, that's right, get down there. Put your teeth on the curb. And baby, bring me my tins. Yeah, this is gonna get real good. I'm gonna try to make these touch. You don't have to do that. And then again, like Dr. Bilal was talking about, once rights are established, then a person can pardon. Bilal just lightly took his foot and just touched the head of Abu Dhar. And there's no indication that there was any tension between them after that. That should be instructive for us. There has to be an acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and there has to be, after the establishment of rights, pardoning, so that we can go about the business of doing something unprecedented in this country.
It articulates itself. It's a machine that's been constructed to make money off of killing innocent people. And since the advent of aerial bombardment in the third decade of the 20th century, all wars have killed more civilians than combatants. All wars have killed more civilians than combatants. By design. By design. And in our country, it's designed to keep a murderous industry going. And why do I say by design? It's by design because it's not about winning or losing. if you say that America lost a particular war, Vietnam. America lost in Vietnam. America won in Vietnam because huge profits were made killing 2 million Vietnamese people. Huge profits were made experimenting with weapons to kill other people subsequently. People in Fallujah were killed with white phosphorus. You know how white phosphorus, the impetus to invent white phosphorus? Because when the napalm was dropped in Vietnam, the Vietnamese they put pools of water around the village. They would dive in the water and the napalm would burn out on the surface. So they invented white phosphorus to burn underwater. And that's by design. By design, you take a weapon system and like a jet fighter that might be built by Boeing, partially here in Los Angeles. You get out of the airport, you're greeted by the weapons industry. Boeing's the biggest one. We think of 737s, we don't think of cruise missiles. And right next door to Boeing is Raytheon, one of the top 5s. I'm sure General Dynamics is somewhere. I'm sure a lot of Muslims work up in there too. That's another issue. But the components for that weapon system is distributed by design across as many congressional districts as possible. And so when we talk about shutting down the military-industrial complex, we're talking about congressmen having to face their constituents and say, we're taking your job. And it's across so many districts that the likelihood of enough courageous congresspeople or senators coming together to shut that system down is as great as the possibility right now of a snowball surviving in the place where the boogeyman lives. Because we're in the masjid.